Well, Razorback fans, I think we are officially at the point to where it has to be one thing or the other when it comes to this Razorback football coaching search. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday as we're going to have some things to discuss. One of them being a college football personality going off on Hunter Yurachek at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, which was quite the scene. And also getting into a crazy story that broke, if you want to call it that, with Razorback football and something that happened behind the scenes. Kind of a wild story there too. But we're going to begin today and talking about the coaching search and the madness that is, man. I know I say this every day, but I want it to be over with. I'm just so tired of it. I'm tired of the games that are getting played. I'm tired of the names getting thrown around. And, yesterday there were a few things that came out. And whenever I say reports, I take reports as people who are in the media, whether it's local media or national media, who put things out there for public knowledge. Like somebody puts something, even if it's on one of their message boards, on the 24/7 sports message board or whatever, and it's a media member, it's like, okay, that's kind of a report to me, or at least some thoughts and some things to think about. And yesterday, there had been some stuff that had come out about, what situation Arkansas finds themselves in when it comes to, those four names. Is it one of those four names that we mentioned yesterday? Is it going to be a situation where financially it's there? Is there this super secret coach name that nobody knows? Is it about the coach that's already been in place and they have their guy and he's been hired this whole time and everything else is just smoke screens? I mean, it is so much of a complicated thing. And I got to the point too where I was just tired of listening to people. I got tired of talking to people. I got tired of, trying to navigate through the minutia of nonsense. And not to say that there's not truth in a lot of it. There is, but it seems like it's an ever-changing thing, and there's a battle going on internally with what this is supposed to be and what this is supposed to be like. I think we're at the point, though, that only one of two things have to be true. And it depends on your lens in this, and it depends on your perception on this. Because there are some who may be looking at the glass half full side of things, where the Razorback coaching search has not had any real significant news break is because they're keeping it so tight-lipped. That Hunter Yurachek and the U of A has just done a phenomenal job of not leaking out anything. They've had their coach hired for weeks. It just hasn't become official yet. They have all the money in the NIL and everything that they possibly need. They've elevated their fundraising, and everything's just all going according to plan. And the reason all the chaos is going around it is because that's the intention of those at the U of A and involved, is because they want all the nonsense to go out there, but they know the truth inside the program. And it is as clean as a whistle. It is a well-oiled machine that's going to end up blowing everybody's pants off with the hire. There is that element that some people may believe, but there's also the other element, the other side, from the perspective of maybe more of the glass half empty. Maybe more of the, if some would call it a pessimistic perception, where this coaching search is an unmitigated disaster. The reason that you have had so many names getting thrown around is because you have more and more coaches that are saying no to you. And you have people that are going out and saying, no, we don't want any part of this. We heard about your NIL situation. It's terrible. We want no issue. We want no part of that whatsoever. You're starting to go through other coaches that are sitting there and talking to other coaches. They're like, yeah, we don't want to go to Arkansas. They have one of the worst revenue sharing programs and setups in the SEC. Footballscoop.com talked about how Arkansas's revenue share and financial situations is really bad, according to industry agents, as they said. And nobody wants to go there. It's a complete and total chaos and disaster. Nobody knows what they're doing. And you're going to end up having a very uninspirational and very uninspiring, I should say, type of hire that's not going to rejuvenate, re-energize, or anything to the fan base. And you're just going to have to wave the white flag. I'm at the point to where I feel like one of those has to be true. They always say the truth lies somewhere in the middle when it comes to some of those extremes. And in a lot of cases, I would believe that. But just given the circumstances of how this has gone, it's almost like you can't have it both ways. Because you can't hire a fantastic big name coach. I shouldn't say not hire a good coach, because some coaches are good. They just haven't reached that pinnacle. But talking about an established, really good coach, you can't hire one of those and convince them to come in if the NIL is not great, if the funding is not great, if all the money coming in is not great. Like, you have to have that. That coach would never agree to it. So if Arkansas is able to pull a rabbit out of its hat and end up hiring one of these big-time name-established coaches that end up being inside of it and end up being one of those type of coaches that really shakes up the industry and is shocking of a hire in a positive way, then automatically that has to mean that the funding's there. Automatically it has to mean that there was a plan in place. Automatically, or at least in theory, I'd believe a lot more that they did have a guy that was hired, and maybe at least in principle or whatever. Like, at least be more likely to believe all that, and that it was a plan in place, and that it is a well-oiled machine, and that everything's good to go, and everything's going to be just fine. Okay. Because it's a domino effect. You're not going to hire a big-time coach if the NIL is bad. If the NIL is bad, if the NIL is great, odds are you're not going to hire a very average to below average no-name coach. So those things don't really go hand in hand. But I'm of the belief, too, from the other side of it, that if you do have bad NIL, then you're going to end up with having a very average coaching hire. Again, could end up being okay, but as far as an established coach, it's not going to be to that level. It's not going to be to the level that maybe they've gone around and tried to get people to understand and believe it, and believe that everything's good to go, and believe that everything is happening in a good, positive way. Like, there's just so much things that rely on other things that it's not necessarily one of those situations where the truth just simply lies in the middle. Fans are getting fed up with it. Some people have said that there's been some fake information being leaked out and on purpose of the U of A. It's like, okay, or what's being leaked out is true, and the U of A and everyone's saying, or maybe trying to give the implication that it's bad information to save their skin. And then there's people that said, oh, the hire's been made and all that. Well, or it could be the U of A is trying to, kind of leak that out or try to get the information out there that they have had their hire. So that way, whoever they end up hiring, it was part of their grand plan all along. I mean, how would you know? If you had been hearing and if people were saying, hey, they have their guy, they have their guy, they have their guy, he's already been hired. And then in reality, they ended up going through about 20 different candidates. All of them said no, and they ended up with their 21st ranked coach that they got. And in the press conference, they said, hey, this was our guy. How would you know? How would you know that it wasn't there? They didn't have him hired all along. I mean, you wouldn't know. So you got to put it into perspective of what the situation holds and what this looks like. And this is why I keep saying I'm going to wait until the end result of the head coaching hire to be made before I really dive into all the processes of what I heard behind the scenes. Because I think that there's a lot of things that I've heard that I firmly am believing in and confident in, and those things I have said on this podcast, and I've been firm in it. And there's other things that I tend to believe or lean towards believing, but the end result will give me a great indication of if it's 1,000% true or not. And there's other things that are 50-50, but the point is the end result of this hire is going to be a telltale sign of exactly how this went. I hope and pray, as I say every time, that ends up being some big time rock star hire that comes out of nowhere that we're we're just in the dark on, and none of us were smart enough to figure it out. And it ends up being some person that was just, yeah, you should have just settled down. Because I'll be the first to admit fully I was wrong. I'll be the first to admit that I am impressed by the hire. I'm impressed by the situation. I'll be the first one to admit all of those things. But just given the circumstances in the history and how things have gone, it's just really, really difficult for me to come out here before you and say, all is well, everything's fine. Because I also know that messages were sent directly to donors, to big donors, especially, as a calming factor, saying, hey, there's a lot of stuff out there, but just know we're on top of it. It's good to go. No issues. We got a plan in place. Everything's going well. Great. I wish that message would get relayed to, the rest of the fan base. But again, I'm hopeful that I am wrong in my gut feeling on all of this. I am hopeful that it all goes just fine. And it was all for nothing. And we should have just let the process play out. That's what I'm hopeful for. But when it comes to the money, that's what it's always about. And that's what it's about for Arkansas right now. And, you could talk about, and we could debate about whether it's a good coaching hire or a bad coaching hire. We could sit here and we could debate about the future of the program and not the future of the program. We could sit here and debate about Yurachek. Is he good or is he not good? Did they have a plan or did they not have a plan? We can go through all of that, folks, but there is only one option out of two when it comes to this specific thing, which happens to be the most important thing by far, and we are going to know about it soon. Do they have the money or do they not? That's it. Nothing else matters. Do they have the money to compete at a high level or do they not? There's no in the middle on that. None of that matters. It's a yes or no deal. And we're going to find out. And if we find out one way or another, it is going to be the telltale sign of exactly how this program could potentially be set up for success or set up for failure. I'll tell you what, though. Mark May, you remember him? Had some very intense words for Razorback fans about Hunter Yurachek. We're going to play the clip and talk about it. Stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, we know the NBA is back, college basketball is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to the next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets to a same-game parlay for a shot at a much bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right, $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I always appreciate hearing people's opinions outside of the state of Arkansas, whether I agree with them or not, about the current state of the program. But the only ones I respect are people that actually may know a little bit about the Arkansas Razorback program. Football, basketball, baseball, doesn't matter. Like, I will take criticisms or I'll, understand things that I may disagree with on people who have been here, who understand it, who understand the game, who understand Hog fans, who understand the setup of the university and the athletic department, all that. Like, that's always going to go a lot further than some moron over, in the state of Florida that's never even been here and never even knows anything about Arkansas, just be like, and giving their intense opinion on what they think about Arkansas. Like, I don't accept that. But one of those people that is outside the state of Arkansas that knows a lot about the program is one Mark May. A lot of you probably remember and know Mark May. Famously of the quote from Houston, Lou Holtz, Mark May, number 5. You better look at him a little closer. He's a football player. Yeah, that was about the ESPN college football final. And when it was Reese Davis and Lou Holtz and Mark May. And, again, I liked Mark. I liked Lou Holtz. I love that show. That was when college football was at its pinnacle for me. But either way, Mark May, still very much involved with college football, knows a lot about the Razorback football program. I know he goes on the Buzz down there in Little Rock. He was at the Little Rock Touchdown Club yesterday, and man, oh man, did he have some comments about Arkansas, about the football program, about the future of the program moving forward, and specifically about Hunter Yurachek. Take a listen.
The first thing is you're missing a leader in the athletic department. When you go and look at good teams, good schools that have longevity, that are up at the top year in and year out, you look at the athletic director. He's probably somebody that's established, that's been there and done it. I'll tell you a story. About 15 years ago, I'm at the SEC Media Days. I'm playing golf with Mel Moore. You may not know Mel Moore. He was the athletic director at Alabama for a long time. I asked him, why did you hire Nick Saban? Because he got a lot of heat when he first hired Saban because basically he was at the Miami Dolphins and got fired there. And he said, I thought in my heart when I looked in his eyes, I felt that he was the right guy at the right place, and that place is Alabama. And there's a statue outside of the stadium right now of, guess who? Nick Saban. He lost one of his first games to Louisiana Monroe, but Mel Moore stuck with him because he knew down the road dividends were going to pay off. Now, you've got to find that guy here at Arkansas. You've got to find that culture builder, that guy that's going to buy in to stay here because this is a destination job. This is a job that people want to go to. You're in the SEC. You're in Arkansas. It's the game in Arkansas. You have no professional teams. You have no professional football team, no professional baseball team, no professional basketball team. You are it. You have no competition for colleges. It's not like South Carolina where you have Clemson in South Carolina, or Alabama where you've got Alabama and Auburn. You have Arkansas in the state of Arkansas, and you should stick your chest out and beat it and act like it because you're the top dog in this state. And you better get the right guy at this head coaching position and get it done.
Do you believe that Arkansas has the ability with 16 great teams in the SEC to be able to raise the money to compete with other schools?
Well, as it was said earlier, you've got more billionaires in this state than Alabama and anybody else in Mississippi does. Why can't you compete? Not only compete, but be better than them. Why can't you? You've got to follow this football team, and you've got to get the support. And if I'm the athletic director here, I sure as heck don't come out and say in the media that we can't compete and we can't financially stand up to the other teams in this conference. You don't say that. Even if you know that, you say, you know what? We've got to come in here and build a better foundation, and we're in the process of getting better so we can compete with those guys, but that's what we're going to do. That's what you tell people. You don't tell them you can't compete. When you tell somebody you can't do something, you know what? You're telling them that they're a loser. I've never told my children that they can't do things. I've always told them, if you can't get it done, I'll help you do it, and I'll show you how to do it, and then you'll do it on yourself, and you'll get it done, and you'll do it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. In fact, man, I'm sure Mark May sounds like he listens to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Something similar to what I said after the Memphis game earlier this year. I'm kidding. I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying, spot on by Mark May. This is how I feel. This is how a lot of Razorback fans feel about the entire situation. And, you know, sometimes just for me personally, I know that it gets really tiresome for me to try to be fighting a battle that I feel like I'm, you know, a possible losing battle where, you know, it's, you have to kind of give up a lot and sacrifice a lot to kind of go against the grain, to go against something you love. Because that's how I felt like I've had to do against Arkansas. Not the school, not the state, not the fans, just the people in charge. And it's tough because of that fact, I know that I'm not liked over there. I get it. You know, and frankly, if I was in their position, I probably wouldn't like me either. But I hope that they understand that the intentions and the perspective are not one from a vitriol place or any of thing of just me wanting to be critical for the sake of being critical. It comes from a place of care. I'm passionate about it because I care about it. And I care about what happens to it. And I care about the fans and how what happens to them. And I am going to continue to care about that. I'm not going to apologize for it. And I'm not going to give up that fight. Even though it doesn't seem like anything's going to change, I'm not going to give it up. But it's just nice to hear people from outside the state. People that, you know, just have no skin in the game. There's no reason for Mark May to feel one way or the other. He could have just simply gone up there with a generic answer and saying, yeah, Arkansas can compete. But he was very specific because I think he realizes just like so many, that there is a lot here that can be better. And because of a culture and a mentality that's been built, it's hard to believe that it's going to get to where it needs to be. So, again, I appreciate that. And I appreciate Mark May. And I disagree with him on a lot of things. But to hear him do that down at the Little Rock Touchdown Club in front of Razorback fans, and I know it went viral, I'm sure that that's not going to be something that just gets swept under the rug. But either way, just want to see my Hogs win, man. Just want to see the Razorbacks win. That's it. All right, we got to get to this wild story here on the other side of the break, dealing with Razorback football. Stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. This was not a story I was expecting to see or read or anything yesterday dealing with the Razorback football team in the current situation. This comes from CBS Sports. Chris Hummer wrote this article. It says, Arkansas interim defensive coordinator Chris Wilson struck a player in the face during an incident in the football locker room in mid-October. Seven sources tell CBS Sports. The strike left the player with a bloodied lip. Arkansas carried out an investigation of the incident after an anonymous tip, which is very fascinating. CBS Sports since spoken with more than a dozen people close to the program and the affected player to better understand what happened in the locker room of a team that fired its coach and racked up a 2-9 record in last place in the SEC. CBS Sports is protecting the player's identity due to the sensitivity of the story, which Bobby Petrino revealed it was Ken Talley. The incident allegedly began when the 56-year-old Wilson called the player an expletive in the locker room. And after the player asked to whom Wilson was speaking, Wilson allegedly doubled down. The two then squared up, seemingly as a joke. Multiple sources said Wilson swung at least once. One source says Wilson swung twice. Another source says the player may have swung first, connecting with the player's face with enough force to cause bleeding. Wilson left in a huff. The player sought out Wilson elsewhere in the football facility, a source said. To gain understanding of what happened, Wilson told the player that he had just been messing around. CBS Sports sent multiple requests for comment to Arkansas's athletic director, Hunter Yurachek, all which were denied over a 10-day period. Shocking. But then on November 23rd, the school provided the following statement to CBS Sports when presented with the eight questions that were asked about it. It says, quote, our athletic department quickly looked into the matter, conducting independent interviews with the interim head coach, as well as the coach and the player allegedly involved. Those conversations revealed that the same recounting of the situation of both the coach and the player said they were joking around. With everyone on the same page concerning the situation, the athletic department considers the matter closed and no further action necessary. Arkansas leadership met with the player roughly 1 week after the incident. Source told CBS Sports. Leadership asked whether the skirmish between the player and Wilson was the two men messing around. The player concurred. However, multiple sources with knowledge of the incident indicated that Wilson was heated when leaving the locker room, making another derogatory comment as he departed. Okay. It's just so dumb. Like, stuff like this is just so dumb. Like, as if we needed another added fuel to the fire. Listen, I don't know what happened, and I don't really care what happened. It's just a matter of, it goes back to my timing, the messaging, and everything. Like, something like this happens, and you have seven sources. That seven sources told you. Because I've read that like 8 times. It's not several sources, it's 7, the number 7 sources. And then you have the record it talks about with Petrino, and then saying one source said that there was 1 punch, one said it was 2, one said the player swung first, all of that. Well, either way, Bobby Petrino was asked about it after the press conference, or during the press conference yesterday, and here's what he had to say about the matter.
Yeah, that all happened, I think it was the first week we were there, and once we had word of it, myself, Hunter, talked with both Chris and Ken. They said they were joking around, shadow boxing. Ken said he bit his lip, and people made a big deal out of it. But we both looked into it, took it very serious, met with them, each of them individually, and found that there was nothing to it.
Okay. He bit his lip? There was nothing to it? So why was there a 10-day window when nothing was going on? Why did it take 10 days? Why was there 8 questions asked, but none of them answered? You know, who's the anonymous tip that they were given? Like, this is all just stupid. Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter any indication on the season or on the program or anything. It's just like, sure, why not? Just throw it in there. Cool. Whatever. Good grief, man. Either way, appreciate all of you listening and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter, John Nabors Show, for any questions, comments, concerns you may have. Keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.